الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. Praise to Allah who has guided us through this, and we would never have been guided if Allah had not guided us. O Allah, I ask you for beneficial knowledge, goodly provision, and acceptable deeds. And first of all, we would humbly like to welcome all of you to INHART's second episode of INHART Monthly Book Talk Series 2023. And in this occasion, we would be having a presentation and sharing by our honorable speaker of his book on 7 Principles of Islamic-Based Development. And this week would be on topic 2, Islamic Critiques of Conventional Development Theories. We are very honored to have you here with us today, Prof. May the Almighty Allah protect you and your family and always increase you in knowledge for you to be able to contribute much more that we needed. We would like to remind the audience that you may leave your questions anytime in the chat box while the presentation is running, and we shall read your questions there when we come to the question and answer session. Or you have a choice to unmute yourself and ask the questions directly to our honorable speaker. And without further ado, I would like to welcome our honorable speaker, Prof. Dr. Muhammad Shukri Saleh, and the platform is yours, Prof.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العظيم استغفر الله العظيم استغفر الله العظيم استغفر الله العظيم. Thank you very much, Dr. Nur Yusnida, and brothers and sisters. Thank you very much for joining our discussion today. I'm going to speak, inshallah, on the Islamic critiques of conventional development theories as a continuation of the conventional development theories that we have spoken during our last meeting. So I have been discussing about Islamic critiques of conventional development theories in my earlier parts of the books, and then before I embark on the specific principles of Islamic development, Islamic-based development. So let's begin now. I've shared my slides now. Can you see Sister Rizlida?
Not yet, Prof.
Can you see the slide?
Not yet. Yes.
Not yet.
Hold on. Oh, yes,
How
yes.
about now?
Yes.
Not yet.
Yes.
Yes?
Can see now.
You got it? Yeah, right. Just hold on. Okay. Islamic critiques of conventional development theories. During our last meeting, we have discussed about the development philosophies which have been created, the growth theories, redistribution with growth theories within the neoclassical philosophies. And then the second one is the radical philosophy, which have created the structuralist theory and dependency theory. And quite recently, we observed that there is a mixture of neoclassical and radical philosophies, which have been led to the creations of the basic needs theory, especially by international level organization in 1976, and also sustainable development theory introduced by United Nations through Brundtland's report in 1987. So today, inshallah, we are going to criticize these philosophies and theories from Islamic perspective, inshallah. So from our observation, we can say that we can conclude that actually all the 3 philosophies are actually confined into one framework or one paradigm. Because if we see at least 3 aspects of the philosophies and theories, especially the law of progress, the assumptions, the perceptions, they are all the same and based on the same argument. Yeah. So let's see, for instance, the law of progress. The first one is the law of progress. We studied about the theories that have been created by neoclassical philosophies and also by radical philosophies. Both of them advocate the destruction of traditional societies. they were saying that in order for a community or society or a state to progress, they have to destroy these traditional societies. Say, for instance, we can take the examples of what W. Rostow has argued through his stages of growth theory. He was saying that there is a historical records that if we were to develop our society, our country, our states, so we have to destroy. The first one is the traditional society. It begins with explaining the traditional society, and then he suggested for the traditional society to be destructed, and then to move into the second stage, which is called the precondition for takeoff. And then the third stage is the takeoff. And then the fourth stage is the drive to maturity. And lastly, eventually, he was hoping that the society can achieve what he called as the age of high mass consumption. So if we observe here, he started with the traditional society and then go through the process of establishing a capitalistic society through the precondition for takeoff, and drive to maturity. And lastly, the ultimate aim is to be in an age of high mass consumption. So meaning that there is a transformation from traditional society to a society which are able to consume as high as possible. Yeah, the more you consume, the progress you are. This is the basic theory of the stages of growth theory by Rostow. But even we can see by Karl Marx in the radical philosophy, he also advocated the destruction of traditional society, which he terms as feudal and Asiatic mode of productions. Yeah, feudal society with a Asiatic mode of productions. What he means here by Asiatic mode of production is the Asiatic society, especially Indians and Asians. He was saying that the societies are controlled by ruling clique, and these ruling cliques are residing in central cities, and they are exploiting the surplus from the village community. Then definitely through what he call oppressive process of productions and also the consumptions. And therefore, to Karl Marx, we have to destroy the traditional society and also the system, the feudal systems, and also the Asiatic mode of productions to be transformed into a society which we call as pre-capitalist society. So Karl Marx also admitted that we need to go through the capitalist society, firstly through a pre-capitalist society, and later on capitalist society. And then eventually he was hoping that a socialist or community society can be developed out of the process. Again here, he began with the traditional society and the destruction of the traditional society to go through the process of pre-capitalist and capitalist society. And eventually he hopes that a socialist and communist society can be established. So as a summary, I think we could conclude that in order to progress from the view of the conventional development theories, local tradition must be eliminated. Yeah, traditional society must be transformed into capitalist or socialist or communist society. And in fact, they have a theory which is called as cultural block hypothesis. They were saying that as long as the traditional society remains with their culture, which they assume as lazy, as fatalistic, and so forth, it will become, the society cannot progress because there is a cultural block there. So this cultural block has to be destroyed so that the culture can be transformed into capitalist culture and later on into a socialist and communist culture. And then therefore, they think that the society can be progressed true that way. So meaning that the traditional society had to eliminate the laziness, the so-called laziness, and also the fatalistic perceptions of the life, and then and therefore they have to abolish that, and by abolishing the cultural blocks, and they assumes that the society can be in progress, inshallah, and also can develop. But the measure of the development for them is the mass consumption. So the higher the consumption is, the more progress you are. So consumption is the main measurements, the main determinants of the both philosophies, either neoclassical or radical philosophies. Right? That's one. Number two, assumptions. The assumptions. They share the same assumptions. There are two main assumptions in the neoclassical philosophy and also in the radical philosophy, which is the unlimited wants and the scarcity of resources. They were saying the wants of the human beings, the desires of the human beings are unlimited, but the resources are scarce. So the main problem that they want to solve is how to fulfill the unlimited wants within the constraints of the scarcity of resources. Within the constraints of the scarce resources, how can we fulfill the unlimited wants of the human beings? So this is actually all about development, and also, especially also in economics also, because economic philosophy, conventional economic philosophies also share the same assumptions, the unlimited wants and the scarcity of resources. And even we can observe that within the Islamic economics theory, or so-called Islamic-based theory, also the unlimited wants, the assumptions of the unlimited wants and scarcity of resources remains, and they do not touch on that, assuming that it is given like that. So now, from the Islamic perspective, we have two questions: whether unlimited wants are really limited, are really unlimited, whether human beings' wants are really unlimited, and whether the unlimited wants, we can agree with them that yes, there are unlimited wants within some, not all the human beings, within some human beings. But we have to identify that kind of human beings, and we'll come to the conclusion that actually wants are unlimited within the human beings which have the level of nas, the lower level of nas, which is amara, lawama, or mulhama. So whether the ones are limited or unlimited, it is determined by the levels of human beings' nafs or desires, nafsu. So nafsu, the nafs has 7 levels. The lowest is the amara, a little bit of high nafs is lawama and mulhama, and the higher, the good nafs is mutmainnah, radiyah, mardiyah, and kamila. So from this perspective, we can see that actually those people with amarah, lawama, or mulhama nafs, their wants are unlimited. They will consume, and then later on they want to consume more and more and more, drive or stimulated by their unlimited wants. But those people who have a mutmainnah nafs, radiyah, or kamila, the higher levels of nafs, and then inshallah they'll be having limited wants. They only consume based on their needs, not based on their wants. So that comes with the concept of zuhud and so forth. So we can agree to some extent to the conventional development theory assumptions that the wants are unlimited. Yes, it is true if you look at the human beings which have the level of nas, the lower level of nafs, which is amarah, lawama, and mulhama. But if you look at the human beings with the higher level of nafs, with this mutmainnah, radiyah, mardiyah, and kamila, inshallah, their nafs, their wants are limited because they only consume according to their needs, not according to their desires. Right? That's one. Number two, the consumption scarce resources. The conventional theory, the conventional development theory can be considered as halfly right. If we view the resources from the physical perspective, because the more we consume, the lesser will be the resources. The more we consume, the lesser will be the resources. And we can take the example of petroleums, the irons, and all sorts of resources, the natural resources that Allah has given us. But then if we look at it from the perspective of the Islamic-based development, and especially the Islamic worldview, and then the physical perspective is not enough to look at the resources and to come to a conclusion that resources are scarce. Yeah, because when we talk about Islam, when we look at it from the Islamic perspective, we have to get involved into the Tawhidic perspective. Yeah. And then we'll come across with the concept of risk, the sustenance. Yeah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised us, and in fact, promised all creations that there will be an allocation for them, each of them, the allocation of risk for each of them, even the worms in the stones, in the rocks. Yeah, so in that sense, actually, the resources are not scarce because everyone has their own allocation. The difference is the quantity, the quantity of the allocations. Some of us got lesser risk, some have a higher risk, and it depends. But still, it depends again on the concept, another concept, which is barakah, that the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. People with a lesser risk, lesser sustenance given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if Allah bestow them with a risk from within His Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim, it's not only the generosity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but also the kasih sayang, or also the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to somebody, even though the risk is small, but then the risk is very barakah, and they can feel that they are happy with them, with that small risk, and also they can live peacefully, as opposed to those people who probably got a lot of risk, but if this not comes together with the barakah, the concept of barakah, and then they will find that actually the risk will not entail with their happiness, with their peacefulness, and so forth. That's the second thing that we need to take into account, the concept of barakah. The third one is the redistribution methods. Meaning that even though somebody is having a lot of risk, but then it doesn't mean that all belongs to them, because part of it actually belongs to the people, to the other people with a lower risk. For example, the poor, the needy, and so forth. So they have to redistribute their risk to these people as a secondary right. Yeah? And for the people with a lot of risk, they have the rights, which we call primary rights, but apart from that, they also have to redistribute the secondary rights of the poor, of the needy, through zakat, through wakaf, through sadaqah, through infaq, and so forth. That's number 3. Number 4 is the consumption ethics. We were taught by Rasulullah SAW to consume according to our needs, not according to our wants. This is quite different from the conventional development theories, which encourage mass consumption, higher consumption, maximization of consumption, and so forth. But that is quite different, because there is consumption ethics within Islam, which we only consume according to our needs, and then if you want to consume more, probably for our necessity that is allowable, but for apa ni bermewah-mewah, and that is not allowed. That is prohibited. So you see, you can see the scarce resources. You can see that it is right if you see it merely from Islamic, from the physical perspective. But then if you were to see it from Islamic perspective, from the Tawhidi perspective, then we have to take into consideration the concept of risk, the concept of barakah, the methods of redistributions, and also the consumption ethics. And with that, we will find out that, inshallah, resources are actually not scarce. It is abundant, inshallah. Right? That is the number two. Lastly is the perceptions. Conventional development theory perceive that human beings are economic beings, as opposed to Islamic-based development theory. We assume that human beings are actors of development, but quite different from the perceptions of the conventional development theory, which assume humans as economic beings. So we view human beings as a Khalifah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Khalifatullah, and also the servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So human beings are vicegerents of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and also the slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which draw guidelines so that in our economics and also development activities, we are confined into the concept of ibadah, meaning that the concept of worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even in our development endeavors. Right? That's the perceptions, number one. Number two, they assume the conventional development theory perceives that consumption is a determinant of development. The lesser a society is able to consume, so the more underdeveloped the society is. So, but once the consumption can be maximized, so the progress can also be maximized, because the consumption will entail with the higher demand, and then the higher demand will entail with the necessity or necessary to provide a higher supply of goods and also services, and the higher supply needs the employment, and then the employment will give the incomes to the employees, and the income will determine the purchasing power of the people, and with that, the higher purchasing power, so they can use the purchasing power to consume more. And that is the cycle of the development process as drawn by conventional development theory. Itu number dua. And number three is they perceive that progress liberating from superstition. They are saying that traditional society are having a lot of superstition in all aspects of their life, and therefore only progress, only development can liberate the traditional society from being superstitious. Number four, and this is very important, they consider science is the only form of knowledge. Science here meaning it's not only the science, the natural science, the physical science, but also social science and the other sciences. And the main concept in this science is the scientific process of everything. So when they say science, they assume that the only knowledge is the science. Then that knowledge is only considered as science whenever the knowledge can be proven through tangible perspective, meaning that we can see, we can feel it, we can experience it, and then whenever that it is tangible, and therefore They assume that it is scientific, and with that kind of scientific forms of the knowledge, and then they call this is the knowledge. But without the tangible perspective of the knowledge, say for instance, the intangible, the ghaib, those things which we believe were such as surga, neraka, and whatever, the heart, the nerves, all are intangibles, and for them it is not knowledge because it is not scientific. It cannot be proven by our eyes, by our hair, by our whatever that we have, by our panca indra, right? That is number 4, which Islam doesn't agree with the conventional development theory. Number 5 is the perceptions that the substructure here means economics. They perceive substructure, the economics, determines everything, determines the superstructure. The superstructure involves or includes religion, even religion, the culture, politics, education, social aspects of human beings, and all other things. So the main things which determines all the superstructure is economics. Economics to them is everything. Then that's why we can hear arguments which says that without economics we cannot even worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, we have to be developed in order to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So economics determines not only the culture, politics, education, social life, but also the religion itself. This is quite different from us. From the Islamic perspective, we perceive that our religion, Islam, is the determinant of the culture, of economics, of politics, of education, of social life, and so forth. So religion is the main thrust of our life, not the economics. Like number 6, they advocated that history can be elaborated only according to the Western historical journey. They ignore the traditional societies or the third world history, either political, social, or the whatever history of the other. As Edward Said was saying that they consider us in the third world countries or the underdeveloped countries as the other. And if you were to progress, to have development, we have to elaborate the history of human beings only according to Western historical journey. And this relates very much to the 7th perceptions of the conventional development theory, which perceive that human culture can become a modern, advanced society only by following the footsteps of the West. So they are saying that if we were to progress, if we were to develop, and we need to follow the history of the West. See, if we take the idea of the capitalistic ideology of the West, and then we have to destroy the traditional society, and we have to have a journey through the capitalistic society until we come up with a mass consumption society. And so it's from the Karl Marx theory, destroying the feudal and also the ascetic mode of productions, and then eventually you come to the capitalist, to the socialist, and also to the communist society. So we have to follow them in order to develop, in order to advance our society, in order to progress. We have to follow the footsteps of the West. So this is a basic critiques of the conventional development theory that we can look at it, and probably we can discuss further, inshallah. So that's all what I want to say today, this morning, Dr. Yusrida. So back to you. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.